Now, Peter Dutton, you've made national identity an issue for you, and it should be. I think a lot of people have run from it. You took a chance calling for a boycott, a shopper's boycott of Woolworths for banning Australia Day merchandise. It turns out, despite the scoffing that you might have gone too far and who's going to change shopping habits, you've got Woolies on the run. What does that tell you?
It tells me that that 2/3 of Australians, Andrew, are supportive of Australia Day. They're patriots. They love our country. And that's why we saw the outcome that we did in The Voice, not because people are racist or not because they don't want a better outcome for Indigenous Australians, but because they're sick of the Aboriginal industry and the waste that takes place. And they're sick of being told that we should be ashamed to be Australians. And the small, boisterous minority that you hear about on social media, or that the marketing division of Woolworths is worried about, or the marketing division of Cricket Australia is worried about, that is not the mainstream view in our country. And we've got to stop the self-loathing. We can have this discussion year after year for decades to come. It won't improve the situation for kids in Alice Springs. It won't improve reconciliation in our country. It won't improve economic outcomes for people right across Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities. We should be proud of who we are. And if people don't want to celebrate Australia Day, we live in a democracy, that's their right. And if they protest peacefully, that is something that we cherish. But I know that there are millions of Australians who will celebrate another anniversary this 26th of January because as an Indian migrant into our country or a Chinese migrant into our country, they were sworn in, they became an Australian citizen on the 26th of January. Maybe last year, maybe 10 years ago, maybe 25 years ago. And they see it as a significant date for them. And why would we trash that? We shouldn't shun our history and we shouldn't be ashamed of who we are. We live in the best country in the world. And the Prime Minister can't utter those words. He can't stand up for Australia Day. And I think it's a sign of incredible weakness of trying to please everybody and tell everybody what they want to hear. Woolworths has a job to deliver groceries, to provide support to their shareholders and to their employees, to get the best possible outcome for their shareholders, to have a good working environment for their employees. And what's happened at Woolworths is not that there was a reduction in demand for flags and other paraphernalia that people might buy for Australia Day. The people on checkouts and the people who are in management within Woolworths said, hang on, what Brad Banducci is saying doesn't align with my values as an employee of Woolworths. I agree with the customers who want to have a choice about what they buy in our store, not be told by some CEO on millions and millions of dollars each year whether they should celebrate Australia Day or not. Woolworths is a great company and they've got hundreds of thousands of good employees, but their job is to reduce prices and to take care of farmers and other suppliers and to make their business viable and profitable. Their job is not to tell me, not to tell you, or not to tell 26 million Australians whether it's right to celebrate Australia Day or not. And that's why I think it's worth standing up for, and I commend you and others who have had the guts to stand up on these issues for a long time, because we should be celebrating Australia Day. We should never forget our history and we should learn from it and be guided by it into the future. But this self-loathing has to stop, and I hope that this Australia Day is a turning point for us instead of the regression that we've seen from recent years.
And just finally, and on that point, I expect this to be a big issue from now on, because there's a sense of deep community unease about national cohesion, national pride being trashed. What would you actually do about it? I mean, there are two things that I'm thinking about. One is banning local councils from refusing to hold Australia Day citizenship ceremonies on Australia Day. 81 have said they won't. The government says fine. And the other thing is, I can't think of any other country that flies 3 flags rather than 1, 2 of them representing separate races rather than the national identity. Would you restore the flying of 1 flag, for instance, at your press conferences?
Well, a couple of points, Andrew. Firstly, I think we can legislate the 26th of January, and I think there would be broad community support for that. And Henry Pike, our local member for Bowman, is a very strong advocate. He's got a private members bill, and I think that should be given priority by the government in the Parliament, and I think we should enshrine the date. First point. Secondly, I think there is no dispute that we have one flag. Have a great respect for the Indigenous flag and for the Torres Strait Islander flag and other flags that you'll see flown at sporting events or elsewhere. People have pride in their culture and their heritage, and that's fine. But Australia has one national flag, and I think it's important for us to recognise that. It doesn't need to be disrespectful to other cultures, and we're inclusive as a country and all the rest of it. But we have one national flag. I think those 2 points are incredibly important. And in relation to the councils, that change in the position by the councils, by the mayors, has only been possible because of the Albanese government change to the arrangements that gave discretion to the councils. And they did it deliberately so that you would see the outcome that you just spoke of. When we were in government, the local councils didn't have that option. And I would return back to a situation where the councils don't have an option to play politics. Again, the councils are there to deliver services to their ratepayers. They're not there to have a view on international affairs and what's happening in the Middle East and spending taxpayers' money or ratepayers' money on social causes. They're there to provide services, and where they've got spare money, they should be reducing rates or improving services to their ratepayers. That's their remit, not to make political statements on our National Day. And I think the Prime Minister here has been quite tricky again in allowing the discretion for the councils, which has resulted in them refusing to have Australia Day ceremonies. I will go to an Australia Day ceremony in my local area tomorrow. I will be incredibly proud to be there to see those new Australian citizens, to recognise wonderful volunteers in our community. And I just say to every Australian, celebrate a wonderful day in the greatest country in the world, and make sure that, that you do it with pride. And that's what the 26th of January should be about.
Peter Dutton, thank you so much indeed for your time.
Thanks, Andrew. Thank you.